Morning. Thank you. Morning, how are you? Creating new and old conflicts throughout the world. The evidence, ladies and gentlemen, is irrefutable. All the reports, including the most recent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, sounded an alarm bell that the world risks facing a global catastrophe unless leaders shift gear on climate change. We need to urgently implement bold mitigation and adaptation measures to avert the looming crisis. It is the least that we can do to bequeath a peaceful and sustainable planet to future generations. Climate change poses an existential threat to Kenya and to most countries in the African continent. In Kenya, extreme weather events, including floods and droughts, lead to losses of between 3 and 5% of our GDP annually. Further, they aggravate food insecurity and trigger divisive intra-community and inter-country competition for resources. Kenya has developed a robust climate change action plan to scale up efforts and to maintain a low-carbon development trajectory. The plan includes commitment to restore degraded water towers, accelerate forest restoration, and to increase our tree cover to at least 10% of our land area in order to promote a sustainable blue economy, but also promoting green manufacturing. Indeed, as many of you know, Kenya is a pacesetter in the energy sector. We are among the top 8 global leaders in geothermal power development and home to the largest wind power project on the African continent. Currently, close to 90% of the electricity used by Kenyans is from renewable energy sources, and we plan to achieve 100% renewable energy by the year 2030. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is doing her fair share. Let me, however, hasten to add that these are mere baby steps relative to the enormity of the climate change challenge. Kenya came to this meeting with high expectations that COP26 will deliver on at least 4 critical issues. First, to see an increase in ambition in emissions reduction. The major emitters must make more ambitious their emission reduction commitments. We all must harness low-carbon investment opportunities as we reboot our economies. Second, we would like to see a quantum increase in climate finance. 2 times in a row, developing countries have been promised US $100 billion per year, but this has yet to be delivered. Today, once again, yet another pledge of 2023. Third, we would like to see ambition on adaptation and loss and damage. With climate impacts increasing, provisions to help the most vulnerable to adapt, including through increased financial support, should be strengthened. Finally, we expect that detailed rules and procedures for implementing the Paris Agreement will be finalized, and a clear way forward for climate-resilient pathways set. We also expect that the agreement will be sufficiently inclusive to accommodate the needs and
from United Kingdom all the way in the great land of civilization that spread civilization across the globe. Good afternoon, all of you. This is Punchline Africa Television, a new series of exclusive interview of analyzing the impact of the global summit COP26. It started yesterday. Several leaders, including President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, gave a speech, delivered their speeches. The commitment towards climate change is put on paper. How far is it in reality? Do we receive this money to make sure that we curtail any catastrophes that can befall our dear planet Earth? Today, our role from here in London, on this second day of this conference, I'm now in London. I traveled by train last night, arrived here with my equipment, and I've set it back to it in the same format. I want to thank you very much, viewers, for having listened to us right from last week when we made an impact, when we said we set a base for the pre-COP26 conference. I have done what I can do, what I could do. Why I have done it is the passion for my continent, Africa. My mother Africa needs people to speak up. Are these problems our problems? Do we really have? Would we be worrying if they were not our problems? How many of us cut the tree and plant a tree? How many of us make firewood out of the trees? Do we plant them back? How many of us are taking Chinese to the forests to cut bamboos? Do we plant back the bamboos shoots, leave the crops growing that we can come back again tomorrow? Are we doing this? Are we destroying our own lives for today, the current, the future generations that are to come? Thank you very much from this side of the planet in Europe. Good afternoon, Miriam. This is Diplomatic Leaks combined together with diaspora dispatches of Miriam, of which she will be the main runner and interrogator this afternoon. Back to you in the studio, Miriam, to introduce your guests and take it over from here and ask any questions. For me, my role now is to answer those questions that you want to ask. And however hard they are, I'm not an expert of climate, but I'm an expert of risk assessment. As a risk assessment officer, politically and on international scene, have we achieved anything from this conference? Back to you in the studios in Nairobi. Thank you. I'm Dr. David Nyokorach Matanga, all the way from the United Kingdom, son of soil. Thank you.
All right, very well, Doc. Thank you so much for that this afternoon. Indeed, just about quarter or about 16 minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. So let's just get into the conversation, as you have already, introduced the topic, and we're looking at the impact of the COP26 on the globe. Today is day 2. And yesterday, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta had a chance to make his presentation, and he had so much to say. And I think we played that clip at the beginning of the show before we started. And so we're looking to see what else. Just maybe part of what President Uhuru Kenyatta said yesterday. President Uhuru Kenyatta called on leaders of wealthier nations to take into consideration the needs special needs and circumstances of Africa in the fight against climate change. Addressing the world at COP26 climate conference in Glasgow, he said Kenya has developed a plan to maintain low carbon development trajectory by 2030. He further called on leaders of developed nations to provide tailor-made support for Africa as Africa has its own challenges. And I'll just quote part of what President Kenyatta said. We expect that detailed rules and procedures for implementing the Paris Agreement will be finalized and a clear way forward for a climate resilient pathway set. We also expect that the agreement will be sufficiently inclusive to accommodate the needs and priorities of developing countries, in particularly the special needs and circumstances. And I think he reminded the leaders on the Paris Agreement that last year's meeting there was an agreement of developed countries to give a certain amount of money, which they have failed to follow through and actually do that in regards to climate change. And Doc, you've raised the question of so far has African benefited from the COP26? I don't know, perhaps it's a bit too early, I don't know, but I'll bring in my panelists this afternoon. Daniel Wesonga from Nairobi. Wesonga, very good afternoon to you.
Yes, very good afternoon, Miriam Ogutu at our headquarters in Nairobi. Good afternoon, Dr. Masanga David in Scotland, Glasgow, and my good brother Tarwish Olesasina, who is here in Nairobi. And of course, Miriam, these are very, very quintessential topic because for long enough, this issue of global warming and carbon emission into our atmosphere has been paid by lip service. There has been a lot of talk and very little progress when it comes to implementations and making sure that all member states adhere to the protocols of the Paris Agreement. So I think it's going to be a very, very robust conversation. We have to look at every spectrum of this particular topic in impact and also in whatever steps that are needed to be undertaken so that we are able to curb these carbon emissions by the year 2050 as it is expected.
All right, Beryl, thank you so much. And Samuel Tarwish, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good afternoon to Dr. David Masanga, all the way from London, as well as my brother, Sean Wesonga in Nairobi. Indeed, Miriam, it's my great pleasure to join you on this program this afternoon. And just like Dr. Masanga and Sean Wesonga have made the remarks, I can't agree more, Miriam, that we've been more of a talking shop than taking action, Miriam. And I think the conference or summit in Glasgow really provides us with the opportunity to try and make a review of the progress we have made so far, more so from the developed countries and those who are the biggest emitters, or if you put maybe polluters, really, to see into how they can really live up to the commitment and pledges they made to help the less developed nations or the developing nations in trying to deal with the challenges of the climate, Miriam. Because again, when it is left unattended, Miriam, we are really threatening our future today, and we are threatening the future of our children and that of our children's children, Miriam. So it is at a moment we need to take a bold step, a bold move, really to try and safeguard our environment, to try and see what we can do to take back our climate, what it used to be. Our rivers are drying up, our animals are dying, Miriam. When you look into the, of course, the weather patterns today are not like what it used to be about 10 or so years ago. So something really needs to be done, and action needs to be to follow into all this talking that we have had all along. I hope this summit that is taking place in Glasgow, Scotland, will come with the tangible action that will see all of the, of course, pledges and the policies that are in place really being implemented. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. So there was a pledge that was made yesterday, I think the first major breakthrough of this conference, and when more than 100 world leaders promised to end and reverse deforestation by 2030 in the COP26. But this is not the first time they're making such a commitment. In 2014, they did so, but so far nothing has been able to take place in terms of slowing down deforestation. So what will make this commitment, the latest one, different, Doc?
First of all, Miriam, a developing story is coming from Juba, and we shall make a confirmation that there is a plane that's just crashed near Juba International Airport. We shall bring you details of what has happened once we confirm it. You are on the headquarters on the engine. You must find out what every detail
I see.
that.
Yes, one of our viewers has brought that to our attention here, so we shall look at that. Emmanuel, thank you so much. We shall look for that information. But Emmanuel is a journalist from Juba, so he always brings incredible information. So thank you so much for that. So back to my question, Doc.
Thank you very much. A plane crashing, that is Miriam's job at the headquarters. Let me come straight to your question. What is different this time? To me, and as I have stood as an African and I say the truth, and usually my truth sets me free. We have made this commitment. Unless African countries go back themselves and look for a budget, I have had this notion that why all the commitments in Africa fail is because we don't have our starting amount. We don't have our own money. We don't have our cash. We have a lot of cash. We have a lot of money, minerals. But when the people come to drill these minerals, we give them on a silver platter. There is nobody charging people in drilling oil in Ogoni area of Delta, Nigeria. No one. The money is paid to the leaders, they eat it. Is there a fund? If you go for the fund in Nigeria, for example, go to Nigeria and find out if there is money collected for pollution, you will not find an account which looks after the pollution. But you will find a heavy account where Nigerian Oil Corporation receives money and the tax subsidies out of the oil that is dug out. It causes pollution, it causes diseases, it kills natural resources, there are natural habitats, fish, animals. But there is no money on account which is paid in terms of contribution towards an ecosystem that is breaking. If you go to Congo, for example, you will not find any account that has been opened in terms of Congo forest. If there is such an account, the account is put on the president of Congo, Kabila or Tshisekedi. They use that amount. So until Africa comes down to the reality and they start having this money in hand, hard cash, and they say this is our fund, which will actually look at local, regional, local, and continental difficulties, we have nothing. It is a talking shop. We are going to talk. We shall live here. These countries are the biggest polluters. Miriam, on that day when the conference started, I promised you on Friday that we are going to have several eggs. I think the authorities in this country heard about it and they put demonstrators almost 2 kilometers away across the river. That even if you shout and play your card, your eggs cannot reach the cars of Chinese representative who is jetting in the conference hall. And the media, for example, were put very far, almost very close, but being satellited by images inside. So the planners of this conference, as you know, the British are always, and the Scottish are always very clever people. You remember Dr. Livingstone, who came and discovered a river that existed and said it was his source. He's the one who discovered the source of River Nile, H.M. Stanley. You remember those type of things you used to read in your books. You mean the river was not there? Miriam, the river was there. Only that we had nobody to tell where the river was. That was the beginning of our destruction of our ecosystem. The moment that river was known, there were no boats. There were no people sailing over River Nile. There were no people sailing on the Lake Victoria. Where they? They introduced steamers, ships, canoes to sail on this river. Because up in the metros of Europe, they had already found out They had already built ships. How did David Livingstone arrive? How did he arrive in Africa? He came by ship. And that is the first time of where pollution came from. And Onyali, with his hiding at Lamu, should not think, he should not tell us this. These things are real, Onyali. The first pollution came from these explorers who came and discovered so many things. And said there is a forest there, big as the entire Africa. And there is a river there called River Nile. So what do you do with a river that you have discovered? You pollute it. And that's where pollution came from. What do you do with a lake? An inland lake with freshwater lake called Lake Victoria, which we used to call the Lake of God, Narubale. Narubale means God. I don't know how the rules of Homa Bay and the Siaya called that lake, because Miriam should be an expert on that side. You also have a name for the lake. We also have a name for the lake on the other side. The biggest chunk of this lake is in Uganda. And therefore, we used to call it Sphered Lake, where God is. Where God is, Narubale means God. In Uganda, it's Narubale of a lake stones, a lake of stone of edges and edges. We don't know how many million years. Nobody has told us how many millions of years has that lake existed. But people have told us that under the lake there is oil, isn't it? So you see the problem we have. People came with ulterior motives to discover oil, but they did not come to cure the climate change and the ecosystems that oil comes out of the surface. There is a gas that God has kept down there, that once you open that gas in Karamoja, in Turkana, if we don't treat that gas, very soon when we start pumping this oil, it will affect the vegetation, it will affect the animals, it will affect the people. Are we really ready to do that? Miriam, this is the question I've been putting forward to every delegate I have found. Why is it the people come and explore our minerals, exploit them, but they don't tell us the effects of the exploitation? In the Delta region of Nigeria, in the Congo forest of DRC Congo, in the mines in South Africa, part of the diseases that are crippling the people of South Africa come from the heaps of the soil. Miriam, please, pollution does not only come from the motor cars, bicycles, motorcycles, and so on. Pollution also comes from Onyali, from South Africa. Look at the mine, the soil you are taking out. When you are about to reach Johannesburg by plane, you think the pyramids from Cairo have been brought back this way. But those are heaps of soil where people have gone down against the will of God to bring out soil that is not supposed to be seen on the surface. This is where we get these diseases. For example, the time when I grew up, I was not as fat as I am today. It is sad. I used to eat very nice food. I was very slender. There was no gym. There was nothing like a man picking a handbag, Miriam. Nowadays, you find men living with handbags like a women out of their houses that they are going to the gym. Sort of state. We must go back and find the root causes. I was shocked yesterday to read an article from the Times of America, where they say, where Bill Gates is saying there is another pandemic. So I just want to, I sat down in my room last night and I said, oh my God, another pandemic. That how prepared are we for another pandemic? Now, excuse me, Miriam. These guys have already made a pandemic. Has God been against only in favor of these guys, or what is the problem? How do they know there is another one coming? And this is being talked by the richest man on planet Earth, whose children can be transported, airlifted to any place in the planet, including to be, Bill Gates' children can be treated in the space aircraft because he has got the money. If there is medicine up there. So look at all those things. Who are the main problem? The paper, the declarations, Miriam, as you asked, that have just been made. These declarations might end up on paper if Africa does not stand up and have its own action plan. Like Kenya, I am very happy, and I want to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta for telling the conference yesterday. I clapped even in the hall where I was. People said, why is this man clapping? And then they also followed me in clapping. You know, I am a very good mobilizer, as you know. Even there I started clapping. And I just love to, I like the voice of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I found myself clapping among the journalists. Then everybody looked at me, they also clapped, which is very good. So, because he made the points, he has told you that in Kenya there is a program going on. People hate him because he preserved Mao Forest. People hate Tobiko because he preserved Mao Forest. People hated Raila Odinga because he talked of Mao Forest. But people like Ruto, when he said, let's go and grab even more and more of Mao Forest, they will give him votes and say, our son, our son, our son. I am not Obierica, but perhaps our son has been away for too long, that the Umofia clan on climate has collapsed, that people might soon want to look for other. Maybe I'm coming out from this conference as I finish. There's something that I picked. Is there something that is going to come? There is this thing in me, which when I see a man like Bill Gates saying that, are you prepared for another pandemic? What has he got on his sleeves? I went out to find out. And I sat with 2 or 3 very senior friends, very senior friends from America. He said they are even trying to get food. You see, the creation of the planet Earth, separation of the planet Earth from the space, with the space, we don't know what is in the space. One of the Americans I sat with said, David, you have a point here. Because I was saying, God separated the Earth from the rest of the other planets. Why are we going there? Why do we go there when God has not told us to go there? What are you trying to find there? Are you not sure? Because these are the questions, Miriam, your panelists. Impact of this global change. It might be coming with the space aircrafts that every country is preparing to go up there. To go and look for what? What are you looking for? What can anybody on the panel tell me which is scientific good that this man, Richard Branson, apart from jumping in the ocean, what did he bring for us? What? What did Richard Branson bring from the air, going to space, What did he bring? Did he bring any medicine that can kill, can heal people? What is it? Have they discovered how to make a human being? These are the. I am an activist. Therefore, as an activist, I am always active and ask questions that are active. Don't you think that this going up to the airspace has brought us more diseases on this planet? Everybody you find now is growing fat. You medium, you are lucky. But when you reach our age, you are going to grow fat. Well, even if you go to the gym, you are going to grow fat. I'm telling you. I used to be a very small man, very slender, very, very lovely. Everybody was falling for me. But now look, everybody you see on the plane is fat. Everybody. Either the stomach is not proportion. My Jesus Christ, what is going on? Have you people discovered what? Instead of us talking here every day, Miriam, about climate change, is this disease coming from where? Wesonga is still small because his age has not arrived. But when he clocks 40, 45, Wesonga might become fatter than Masanga. Because we don't know what is going on, Miriam. All these things come because of climate change. Believe me or not, climate change.
It's biology, not.
Yes, Miriam.
After the age of 35, your metabolism slows down, so someone needs to start checking what they're eating at a certain age. So that's what brings about the change in body size after a certain age, because your body doesn't function the same way.
Yeah, but when my body only started changing in 1993.
Your metabolism slows down after 35.
So no, you explain to me. Slows down and then that's what?
Yes. So you're supposed to eat certain foods that will, help.
Why? Yes. Let me, because this is a discussion, surely. We are not making news. We are educating people. Maybe let me hear. Yes.
Yes, and Dr. Masanga, maybe something we should bring to the perspective of our viewers is that on the sidelines of the Glasgow summit, Lancet, which carried out a research comprising of over 100 scientists from 44 or 45 thereabout organizations, actually concluded that the biggest impact of climate change and this carbon thing is that it has had a very, very great impact on the health of people around Sub-Saharan Africa and most parts of the world. So health factor, whatever Dr. Masanga is talking about, is very, very true. Actually, in the US, more than 345 individuals have died out of problems related with climate change and all the side effects that comes out of it. Today, we are talking about wildfires actually coming from Canada and other parts of the US. When people inhale these gases, this smoke, it actually causes health complication. So I think we should also look at the health implication, which is actually the biggest implication. And from the research that Lancet did, they are saying that COVID-19 might come and go. But whatever we are looking at is a mess that might take us over 150 years to clear. So just that is just my proposition. I believe I concur strongly with Dr. Masanga. However, I'm very, very doubtful by 45 maybe whether I'll have acquired that body, because at almost I'm still struggling.
No, Miriam, the point that I am raising here is it the food of late? Because you find people who go to the gym like Miriam every day.
I don't go to the gym.
Miriam, okay, you don't go to the gym. People like
I walk.
Yeah, you are lucky. You are umechunga chakula yako.
Yeah.
But the food you eat, some of us try to go also to steal from you. What type of food does Miriam eat? If you give it to another individual, because of the climate change, the soil, the fertilizers that have been pounded in this food, the tomatoes that we used to eat those days. Miriam, please, look at me. When I grew up, I used to to go to the kitchen very early in the morning, set the fire, make fire, get a cassava, and put it under the ash. I think, Wanyali, you have done that before. In preparation to go to school at 7, to walk 5 miles to go and study in a primary school. On foot, there was no pain, there was no fever. The only thing that was there was mosquito that we are told don't have standing water near the house, near our places in the villages. And I was all right. Tell me one of the students today who walks up in your house without asking you for bread with Blue Band. You all have children. They ask for, if you bring bread, he will not eat that bread. Until he asks you, is this all? Then you say, yes, it is all. Then he said, no, ma'am, there's something missing. There's no margarine. There's no sijui Pringle, sijui what, all these things. These things are happening. And are these things also manufactured from the chemicals that are put in the soil? We have brought a lot of fertilizers. So climate ecosystem changes. It comes from a chain of activities. If areas for war, for example, one of our viewers has brought something here who says, in Africa we have wars, civil strife, corruption. It is worse than climate change. But all these are the factors that create a bad climate change. So for me, Miriam, this is a rhetoric. We might not have that money to be able to change the weather and the conditions in Africa. Once that money arrives in the ministries of environment, people start buying Range Rovers, V8, cars. You saw the floods came in Cameroon. People now bought helicopters. They are rushing to sell them, to change the name because the audit is coming, so that they divert the route. Someone will not be saying that I have that helicopter is mine. You see, Ruto is selling a helicopter to avoid it from the money that was supposed to keep the climate, to change the weather, to change the climate, the conditions of the people of Cameroon and Error. That money was gone. We are fumbling here. DPP tells us so and so. The case is thrown out. There's something cloudy. So Africa, we are still at a loss. We might not get this money on the ground. I submit.
Very well. Prof has joined us. Prof, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Miriam.
All right. So much noise coming from where you were. Okay, so we are looking at the latest from Glasgow.
Yes, I'm listening.
Prof, the place you are is very noisy. I don't know if you're going to communicate this afternoon, but we're looking at the latest from Glasgow, and where more than 100 world leaders have promised to end and reverse deforestation by 2030 in the COP26 Climate Summit's first major deal. But this is not the first time such a deal has happened. In 2014, over about 40 governments made the same commitment, but nothing was able to be achieved. And the commitment was to slow down deforestation by 2020. 2020 came and passed, and nothing really has changed. So this new commitment, is it likely to be followed through? And is it likely to, the governments across the world, are they going to commit to actually following up with that?
Yes, Miriam, I do not want to.
Very well, we can't hear you.
Given
Yes.
by Dr. Masanga.
Okay, I think I'll just move on. I'll just move on to Daniel Wesonga, or rather to Samuel Tawish.
Thank you, Miriam. And of course, like Dr. Matsanga said, the African continent, or rather sub-Saharan Africa, is the biggest casualty when it comes to global warming and all the impacts, the disdainful impacts of carbonization of our atmosphere. You realize a report that was given there by the scientists, it tells you that global warming, the most obvious impact of global warming, which is increase in temperature, actually denied sub-Saharan Africa and some parts of India and Sri Lanka more than 200 hours of work. That means that people who are supposed to work 40 hours a week per individuals actually are not able to even tender to their farms, to go to their Juakali enterprises and all that kind of thing. What does that? What implication does that bring? It means that we're gonna be having a very sharp shortfall in industry and also a financial cycle. So with the reduced financial cycle in these particular countries, it only means that more people are going to be driven into poverty. And with higher increased rates of poverty, Miriam, it means that these individuals are not able to afford basic commodities. They are not even able to afford 3 meals in a day. So that leads to health implications. And that will risk lives of more than 500 million people across Africa and also in some parts of other third world countries in Southeast Asia, India, and Sri Lanka. So to me, Miriam, I think this is a problem that should be addressed, not only because perhaps maybe we are having fires in the US or in Canada, or maybe we are having ice melting in the Arctic. It is because Africa and other third world countries are actually the ones feeling the heat of global warming. For example, with the increase in global warming, we have seen a decrease in production of cereals like maize, like peas, and other commodities crops that will actually be used to fight hunger. Right now, more than 2 billion people are actually facing hunger and starvation in less developed countries. Right now, Miriam, as we speak, most lands, even here in Kenya, the coastal part of the country where Professor Jared Onyari is right now, are facing a very, very serious problem of salinity due to increased temperatures, Miriam. We have had most sub-Saharan countries becoming prevalent to diseases like dengue, which is a viral disease caused by mosquitoes. We have seen the infection of malaria and mosquitoes actually also coming into the limelight. This is something that did not happen before. We have also seen that people are actually experiencing floods and mudslides in a higher frequency than we had before. That tells you that people who are living in an area of, let's say, 1 meter above sea level, who are actually globally there are around 146 million people, and also people who are living maybe 5 meters beyond sea levels, which translates at around 400 million people are facing the threat of floods. And this is something that has to be addressed, because if it is not addressed, then we're going to have more people getting sick due to increase in infections of bacterial and viral diseases. We are going to have more people not working enough to produce enough food for themselves. That will increase hunger and starvation across third world countries. And if we do not address it also, Miriam, we're going to have very, very high frequency of droughts that we have been experiencing also here in Kenya and other parts of the world. So to me, I think we need to get serious. Africa and other third world countries need to be actually on the table when you're discussing about global warming. The donors have said that they're going to be putting aside 100 billion in the purpose of actually addressing these particular issues. Dr. Masanga said little has actually been done to address this particular issue, because as it is right now, less than 1% of the funds has actually been channeled to addressing this particular matter. 5.7% only has been put in the efforts of maybe education and maybe adaptability in ensuring that they cut carbon emissions into the atmosphere. So that means that over 99 be neutralized. Yes, sorry, Miriam. So it means more than 99% hasn't been utilized in actually making sure that we cut on the carbon emissions. With only 9 years left to achieving the goal of having halved maybe carbon emissions by 2030, I believe it's still a tall order for the those who are championing this particular cause. And of course, they are saying that by 2050, we should be having zero carbon emissions into our atmosphere. So I believe now is the time where they should actually accelerate the disbursement of these funds so that they get to the ground, they get to the African countries, so that they are also able to have structures, they are able to have maybe mechanisms of making sure they embody green production and they are able to cut on carbon emissions. I submit.
All right. Thank you. And of course, this funding, some of the funding will go to developing countries to restore damaged land, tackle wildfires, and support indigenous communities. Governments of 28 countries are also committed to remove deforestation from the global trade of food and other agricultural products such as palm oil, soya, and cocoa. These industries drive forest loss by cutting down trees to make a space for animals to graze or crops to grow, and we know a lot of that also comes from Africa. Samuel Tawish, as we conclude, I'll just read one of the comments here from our viewers and then you can respond to that. His name is Fondong Richard, and he's saying, to the best of our knowledge, climate change is not our top priority in Africa. Hunger, wars, corruption kills more than climate change. Our leaders has fervently and vehemently failed us. So Richard here is saying climate change is not our priority. What is your response to that?
Indeed, Miriam, I can't agree more with that particular viewer who has made his comments about, of course, what our priorities are. Indeed, Miriam, today, the world, we are facing unprecedented times. And the climate crisis should be treated just like any other crisis. In fact, the worst of the crisis that we are experiencing in current times. Because, again, we have seen the effects of the climatic problems or challenges that we are facing as a world and more so as a continent. In fact, at a time when the African nations or the developing nations are not doing as much in terms of seeing how they can do it on their own, in terms of raising funds, in terms of making sure that maybe they have money to be able to mitigate the effects of the climatic changes that we are experiencing as a continent, Miriam. Because again, just like Dr. Masanga did say, that when we continually want to rely on the developed countries, or even the biggest polluters in the world, like India, China, or Brazil, or any of those, of course, biggest polluters in the world, and we are not doing anything, look unto the promises and pledges they have made in the past. I mean, it is so many years down the line, and there's nothing so much they're doing in terms of saying to it how we can be able to mitigate these climatic changes that we are going through. In effect, it tells you, Miriam, that it is more like these nations and most of the biggest polluters are like they want to drown with the rest of the world. It's like they do not care anymore. That's why Dr. Masanga was telling you that he doesn't quite see much coming out of this particular conference. Maybe it is just going to be a usual talk like what it has been used to be. You talk of what the devastating effects of the climatic changes in the world today. Look into what is happening in Madagascar today. People are experiencing starvation in that part of the world. I mean, they're experiencing the worst drought ever in a record of over 40 years as we speak. I mean, because of the global warming, because of the climatic changes, because there's nothing much being done really to try and mitigate such kind of situations, Miriam. So moving forward, even as the world leaders and the entire, of course, continent and the entire world converges at Glasgow, I want to hope that it's not going to be more of the talking show. That we want to see the policies, the kind of tokenism that is happening in Glasgow really being put into action, so that by the end of the day, and also we must have timelines. We must also have targets that by this given time we must have achieved these particular targets. Without which, then Miriam, it is more like we are just we are there for like a beauty contest. We are there just to show up, and nothing much in terms of putting action into whatever thing we continue to do. So, Miriam, this is a very big challenge to the entire world. It's a big challenge to the biggest polluters. But again, we need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, watch and wait for this developed nation or wait for the biggest polluters to come and help us mitigate this situation. If there's anything we can do in our individual capacity as the small nations, then I think it can go a long way collectively in trying to address these problems of climatic changes that we continue to face today. Miriam, I remember, if you can make a flashback, going back to our villages, today if you went there, you will notice the rivers that used to have to flow freely with them, of course, with water. Today they are drying up. They have become more of seasonal rivers. You go to Masai Mara, it is not like what it used to be in the past. A couple of years ago, we used to see, for example, the wildebeest migration maybe happening in August. Do you want to tell me it's something happening today? Because of the climatic changes, because we do not have enough waters. Times are not what they used to be. So Miriam, if we cannot do something today, we are certainly not going to safeguard and secure the future of our children and that of our children's children. Miriam, I submit.
Very well, thank you so much, Doc. End it for us.
I wanted to say something, Miriam. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, Miriam, let me just say that I associate myself with what my fellow panelists have said, that climate change is real, climate change is a reality, climate change, we need to act now. But I want to say that, Miriam, if we have not learned something from COVID-19, which shows that we are on our own. And that's why I want to associate myself with what Dr. Masanga said, that we should start doing our things in a small way. I'm very proud with the government of Kenya, at least, even if we have not done much, at least we have got the Climate Change Act. It has been enacted, Miriam. We have got policy on climate change. So as they come out from Glasgow, Miriam, COP26, nothing much is really going to happen. And Miriam, let the world or Africa not expect that other countries are going to clean the mess they have created. The best we can do, let us try to do things in our small way. And the statement which you have read, that corruption really is even worse than climate change. If we spare resources from corruption, Miriam, we can tackle urgent challenges facing humanity like climate change. So don't expect much. I don't want to sound like a prophet of doom, but you can see we have had COP up now 25. You can see what we have achieved. So long as America and China and Germany, countries which are not just including the environment, as long as they are not eligible by United Nations, I don't know where they are going to head at all. Nothing you are going to expect much from COP26. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, the countries that signed that new pledge include Canada, Brazil, Russia, China, Indonesia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the US, the UK, among others. And in that resolution as well, 1.1 billion British pounds fund will be established to protect the world's second largest tropical rainforest, and that is in the Congo Basin. Doc, end it for us. We can't hear you. Could you unmute, please? Very well.
Oh no. Am I tired now? Thank you very much, Miriam, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you very much, our viewers across the globe, those who will pick this clip, and those who will continue watching us when we are off. Maybe we have gone to other programs. It is true that Africa came to put its case. The polluters are here. The real men who pollute the world are here. In fact, that's why I left. It is true that none of the African heads of state who came here is one of the polluters. The polluter is China, America, France. They look for minerals. Yes, they look for our fish. We don't come to fish in Atlantic Ocean, do we? Do you come to fish up here? but they come down in Somalia. They have brought a conflict now between Somalia and Kenya because of the fishing. The Indian Ocean deepest end is at the Horn of Africa in Kismayo. That's where fish breed more. If you people didn't know why is the importance of Somalia, people would have left Somalia to kill it, to be with its terrorists. We can as well leave it. And they kill each other inside. But because of the importance, the strategic importance of the fish which breeds around there. If you go on the coast of north of Lamu, if you see the amount of ships by air when you are flying through to Dubai or to one of those states, and then you see the amount of ships on the water, you might find that the village has shifted, is on the water. And what is it, Miriam? It's because they come for that fish. So the biggest polluters are here, are there. Uhuru Kenyatta does not pollute the world. Emerson Mnangagwa does not pollute the world. Mama Suluhu does not pollute the world. They come to Tanzania and pollute the world through the mining of minerals in Shinyanga. The diamonds are biggest polluters. The air that you open up from the ground, which has been sealed by God. Don't you think there's a miracle? But we are now big force because the rivers don't give us the water. Another thing, like what my friend is working in his farm in Lamu. You can see him enjoying the farm in Lamu. What is he going to do next? He's near water, but he's going to take a borehole. Miriam, have you not seen that in Nairobi where we are sitting on a time bomb? That every house, every big house in Nairobi, which is being built now, the water is dug from down. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No, mniambie. So, nyenye tunaenda chini, tunachimba huko chini. Kwa nini Mungu, why is it that God hid this water down there? Why are you going for it? After finishing the one that runs, after polluting Earth River, Nairobi River, throwing there your plastics, throwing there your garbage, now you have gone for the water under. Onyari is about to drill 2-3 boreholes on that farm. Believe me or not, he's polluting. Look at his farm. It's as big. The other side is the ocean. The polluting is not simply the air you smell. Polluting means you are now tackling something even which is down in the whole of Nairobi. Don't be shocked that one morning we wake up, we are sinking, God forbid. Because we are now, every house that is being built in Nairobi, being 47-story building near Kepiski, they drilled the water. Have you heard of any house in Nairobi lacking water anymore? Miriam, niambie. You lack water at your place, maybe because you are still using the city council. That pipe which was put there by the colonialist. But in most of the new buildings in Nairobi, the water is boreholed. They first, before they build the building, they borehole the water down. So guess what we are doing to the environment? Don't you think we might finish the soil that has supported us one day? So we must keep the climate. The Ministry of Environment and Ecosystems has a long way to go. It's not only keeping the top rivers, it must also keep the underground rivers, underground water, underground facilities, resources that should not create us problems. I therefore thank the people of the United Kingdom I thank the organizers of this conference. I want to thank Chatham House and the International Institute of Strategic Studies for having allowed some of us to take part of their time to put in a paper which is circulating amongst them. I thank everybody for that, and I'm well organized. I'm still here. I'll come back again. I'm back to my format of giving a lecture or lectures that will be organized in UK. I've been doing this in small groups or large groups of organizations in Africa. I continue doing so until I am capable, until I stand for Africa, until Africa gets the message, which is not very far. Very soon, Africa will get the message. I want to thank President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and the President Emerson Mnangagwa for having had the meeting last night. That was very, very fruitful for some of us who have struggled for Zimbabwe to be readmitted and be brought. I want to thank again the British government for inviting the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe to return to Britain for 3 days working visit. Oh my God, what an end of the year. Miriam, again, 24th, 25th, 26th, I will be somewhere. It may be in Hilton Hotel, also overseeing some of these things. What they call kukula matunda ya huru kidogo from Zimbabwe. I've done my job for 22 years, advocating for these chaps to return to London. Why shouldn't I be happy? I should. I should be encouraged. You should thank me for having been persistent and being resilient. Miriam, before I end, I want to tell you, Zimbabwe almost lost my life. I lost my life. I was going to be killed, assassinated in this country, not anywhere else. The records are with Scotland Yard because people thought I was supporting Mugabe. They wanted to finish me. For 5 years, Miriam, we lived under terror with my family, my wife and my younger last born. We had equipment to switch on in case there was any knock on the door. I've never told people this story, but one day I will tell the story now that Zimbabwe has been admitted and is coming back to the World Commonwealth and to the British system. All what I was fighting for is re-engagement so that Chinese don't grab our Zimbabwe away from the British. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And with that, we've ended the show this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow for more news across the continent. Bye-bye, and thank you so much for watching.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.